Hello everyone and welcome back into episode 3 of the NAPHL Summer Series. Today we are joined by former Biggby hockey and Wisconsin Wendigo forward Max Martin. Martin spent 2 seasons in the NAPHL with Meijer AAA and Biggby Coffee AAA at the 15U and 18U levels. With 28 games played in the NAPHL, the 6-foot forward was over a point per game player with 30 points, ultimately resulting in an NA tender agreement for the 2022-23 season. After a stellar NA career, Martin would make his commitment to Bowling Green University. How's it going today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thanks. So we'll kind of just jump right on into things. So where did you start playing hockey and, how did you get involved in the sport?
So I started playing hockey in my hometown of Taos City, Michigan, for the Taos Blackhawks, actually. My brother played and my dad was big involved in the hockey locally. So kind of just got started through that and then just went from there.
And as you continued playing hockey growing up, at what point did you realize, that playing Division I was a realistic goal for yourself?
Yeah, so I kind of like it was probably my 15U year. I realized I obviously played hockey because I loved it. And my parents made a lot of sacrifices for me just from where we lived. I travel a lot. Like my 15's year, I drive 2.5 hours for practice and stuff like
Wow.
that. So at that moment, I kind of realized we're not doing all this for nothing. Let's go all in, and then kind of just fell in love with that ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2.5 hours, that's a long
Yeah,
ways to go for
yeah,
practice.
yeah. I
So
was definitely grateful.
yeah, absolutely. And then being from Michigan, what was your experience like joining Meijer, which eventually, turned into Biggby, but how did you find that program and what made you want to play for them?
Pretty much it was local teams in Michigan. There's not many nearby me at the AAA level. So there's 8 teams in Michigan total, and kind of just sat down with my parents, found out where would be the best for me to develop as a player and advance on. And, Meijer was kind of just that spot that we figured out. With the NAPHL, you're getting seen by the NAHL teams more than anyone else. So we kind of
Right.
just decided that's where we'd go.
And talk about the value of being exposed to the NA at the tier events that you guys took place in.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, there's so many teams at every showcase. You're just sometimes you're nervous before games,
Mhm.
oh, what teams are here, trying to play good. And then that just adds on to the college level, or the NAHL level, oh, what college teams are here today? I gotta play good, all that kind of stuff. So it was super cool and super fun.
And you tendered with Minot in March of 2022. Take us through that tender process and how you got in the mix with Minot.
Yeah, so I was talking to a few teams at the time, and then I got a call one day, and I'd never talked to them in person or anything. And Minot just called me hey, we've had a scout, we've been watching you play, we love your game. And obviously they offered a tender then, and that same day, I talked to my parents and researched Minot pretty heavily, and it was just the place I wanted to go. They have everything there, and it's a super nice facility, so it's kind of how I ended up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of take us through. So you're with Minot and then you went over to the Wendigo for the second half of that year. What take us through that process of switching over to the Wendigo and what your experience was like there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So we had to I was flying back on Christmas to go back to Minot after the break, and
Mhm.
I had a couple flight delays, and it was a hectic situation. And then I get back to Minot finally, just ready to go, and get pulled to the office, and I got traded to Wisconsin. I was like, oh, here we go. So I got traded, and I was devastated at first. I loved
Right.
Minot, and the place was awesome. I loved all the guys and the fans there, and then but then I went to Wisconsin. I was happy, a fresh start. This could be really good for me. Going
Absolutely.
here, I have some friends that played there and they all loved it. So, and then when I got to Wisconsin, met the coaches and just fell in love with the place and everything about it. So I honestly don't have any bad things to say about it in Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the way your career went. Um,
Yeah, easy to say that now, I guess.
so how was playing in the NAPHL and the NA able to help you kind of develop as that player and ultimately make your commitment to Bowling Green?
Yeah, a lot of it is ice time and games at a high level. Playing games against other high level teams is always good in the NAPHL for sure. And at Biggby, we get a lot of ice time there. We would have our assistant coach take us out for morning skills, and then we'd have team practices in the afternoon. So that
Mhm.
was big. And we also had workouts there too, which I mean, those 3 things not all AAA teams have together. So that was definitely a big help. And then in the NA, just being on the ice constantly and coaching from some of the best coaches is like what really helped me develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what ultimately made you choose Bowling Green? Because obviously there's a huge number of Division I schools to choose from. Take us through, your commitment process.
Yeah, so I'm a Michigan kid, so the CCHA is like where I've always wanted to play. Like those
Mhm.
schools in the CCHA are always like what I've been watching growing up, and then just going through my recruiting process, just trying to feel teams out and see like what would be the best spot for me. And then when I had talked to Bowling Green and eventually went on a visit, and the second I stepped on campus, I just like it felt like home. I love the coaching staff there. I have a couple guys on the team that I know that I'm good friends with. And yeah,
Mhm.
just stepping on campus, going on my visit, I just knew that was the place I wanted to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially, when you get on campus.
Yeah, once you know, like you know, and your mind just can't change from that. So that's kind of what happened.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And when you look at your stats from your first year to your second year, you had a huge breakout. You were league MVP, league forward of the year. What do you think was that difference for your second season?
honestly, like taking advantage of the summers. I feel like a lot of guys use the summers to like relax, unwind, play golf, go to the lake, have fun. But I feel like if you really like put the work in the summers, that's your biggest time where you can like jump ahead of other people that aren't doing anything there. So I'd say that's probably what it was. And then another big thing would probably be just confidence in my game. Our coaches like adds in your game and how it can make you such a better player. And I'm all aboard. So yeah.
And if you could get any advice to a player who tendered in the NAPHL and then with an NA team, what advice would you give them?
Just take advantage of your summers and any time you have off. Summers are huge. Take advantage of them every chance you get. Christmas break is also big. Like when I got traded from Minot to Wisconsin, I got back over Christmas break and I was just like, I went hard every day. Like a lot of guys take time off, but you don't really have time off and you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices with the fun things that people say. But if you're at the rink, just go to the rink, have fun, and take advantage of everything.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and good luck at school in the fall.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.